So the incidence of congenital hypothyroidism is not very uncommon. So 1 in 3 to 1 in 4,000. So the impact of congenital hypothyroidism on lifelong brain development is huge, and that's why it's no longer acceptable if we don't screen for congenital hypothyroidism, even in the resource limited settings. So the governments have a responsibility, the public has to be educated, the pediatricians all over the world have to be educated to make sure that we don't miss congenital hypothyroidism. We talk so much about birth asphyxia and therapeutic hypothermia and so on. Of course, better obstetric care, better availability of resuscitation facilities at birth are important, but this is equally important. So there is a female predominance, and the babies are often asymptomatic at birth due to the maternal thyroxine transfer. The incidence of hyperthyroidropinemia is relatively less reported, so 1 in 17,000 or 1 in 8,260, depending on which source you're looking at. So the most common reason for thyroid disorders, congenital hypothyroidism, is dysgenesis of the thyroid gland. So it can be ectopic in 1 in 5,000 and total absence of the gland in 1 in 15,000. Hypoplasia can be there in any of these as well. So if there is total absence, it's obviously shown to have a poorer prognosis, and the thyroxine, the TSH tends to be very high, the T4 tends to be quite low. While in ectopic glands, the TSH tends to be like 40 to 60 or 100, and the T4 is not too far from the range. Dishormonogenesis is less common. You may have a family history, you may have a goiter, and obviously the newborn screen may not pick it up if the dishormonogenesis manifests after birth. The goiter may be the first presentation, or the baby may be symptomatic. So keep your eyes open for both central hypothyroidism and dishormonogenesis, which may be missed in the newborn screen. So we have different causes: the Pendred syndrome associated with deafness and goiter, thyroid peroxidase deficiency, thyroglobulin deficiency, deiodinase deficiency, and so on. So the central hypothyroidism is less common, 1 in 21,000. I'll have a presentation later on central hypothyroidism and hypopituitarism, which is an interesting case as well. So we may have isolated TSH deficiency, and you may also have multiple hormone deficiencies with hypopituitarism, micropenis, and so on. So keep your eyes open for micropenis, hypoglycemia, central facial defects, and so on. Resistance to TSH binding or signaling. So you may have a TSH receptor defect or G protein defect. Postnatal perinatal illness like hypoxia, sepsis, exchange transfusion, iodine exposure, these also cause hypothyroidism. So in central hypothyroidism, T4 is low, normal, and TSH is low or normal. So the T4 being low with the normal TSH suggests central hypothyroidism. And suspect in infants with cholestasis or jaundice which doesn't continue to improve. Babies have poor growth, there may be hypoglycemia if there is hypopituitarism, and you may have structural nervous system problems. Holoprosencephaly can be a feature on cranial ultrasound. You may have optic disc dysplasias as well, and other features of pituitary.